Good evening, everybody. Okay, so I'm studying for evolution. As you can see, I'm not exactly looking my best right now. But, so I'm studying all my books, all my lecture notes, listening to my lectures over and over and over again. But I came across this little bit about Lamarck, and I just want to make a quick video about it. Okay, so Lamarck, the guy that everybody hates because he was so wrong, right? Darwin was so right, and Lamarck was just so stupid. How could he come up with something that dumb? Giraffes stretching their necks, and then all of a sudden, giraffes have long necks. Yeah, I know, that's how everyone was learned. That's how I was taught in high school, but now that I'm doing this history of evolutionary biology, I've become reformed. No, I am not a neo-Lamarckian. I am still a Darwinist, yes. But Lamarck was the first person to come up with a broad view of evolution. No one else could do it. So Lamarck attempted it, and granted, it was wrong, but it was still a good try. I think so anyways. And just to clear this up, his inheritance, this mechanism of adaptation and inheritance of acquired traits was not based on with. Lamarckian inheritance was based on use and disuse, which means if an organism used a muscle or an organ more than other organs, power of life, an organizing principle, this essence which changed the organs, would make it more complex and larger. And this worked the other way around too. So if an organ was not used and fell into disuse, it would eventually get smaller and smaller and less complex till it disappeared. So in the giraffe's case, the giraffe's necks and muscles over successive generations were stretched and strengthened until they became what they are today. So yes, it's still wrong, but it's not exactly what everyone thinks it is. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, this power of life. It's an unknown inner power that pushes organisms towards more complexity. Now, so basically, organisms become more complex over time, no matter what. That's how we, or humans, started from microorganisms and single-celled organisms, became these complex creatures we are today. But some people would argue that, well, why do microorganisms still exist if all organisms were pushed towards greater complexity by the power of life? Well, Lamarck suggested multiple creations, spontaneous generation. And so they all follow the same trend towards complexity, but they were created at different times. So, in the case of the apes and humanity, well, humans were the result of the first creation event, and apes were a result of a later creation event. In this view, we are not related to the apes. The apes represent an earlier form that humanity once had that was less complex than what we are now. So apes and humans are not related because they are the result of separate creations, but both follow the same progress towards higher complexity. So one day in the future, the apes will become humans. here I'm going to get a little bit more religious because, I mean, the power of life and greater complexity not related to the apes. How could you not become more religious? And besides, these videos seem to get more views than the other ones. Okay. So, power of life. Natural selection and Darwin. Darwin's natural selection, everybody knows, has no purpose, has no direction, and has no end. Therefore, we are all just the result of millions and millions of years of random mutations that prove to be beneficial in the environment, and with us passed down and magnified within the population. Okay, but how can you explain the fact that creation and all life have gotten more complex over time? You can't argue with that. If we started off with single-celled organisms and now we're multicellular, sentient, intelligent, emotional, social beings, how do you explain that? There seems to be a direction towards this, don't you think? Or am I wrong? And could this direction towards greater complexity be the same power of life that Lamarck was talking about? Not to say that all organisms, no matter what, are driven towards more complexity, but you can't ignore the general trend of evolution towards multicellular, multistructural organisms like humans, like monkeys, like horses, like anything that seem more complex. I'm not saying that we are the ultimate end and the purpose of evolution, but there is definitely a trend that I can't ignore. So, that was the point of this video. In the first 5 minutes, it's just background. Okay, so I better get back to studying Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, and I'll talk to y'all later. Keep on watching and keep on posting comments because they make me really happy, and I like to read them. Bye.